Hi, my name's Susan Musselwhite. I'm one of the founders and directors of LABRATS International.
And what is LABRATS International?
Alan came to me with the idea of LABRATS, this tiny little idea of having an ethos of education, recognition and awareness, but mainly a platform where we combine, have, in a sense, a one-stop shop of associations connected to the nuclear testing and everything with regards to nuclear. So that you can find researchers, you can find associations worldwide. And I absolutely loved the idea, and we started this little idea which is, every month is coming along in leaps and bounds and gaining more momentum as time goes on, where we've been able to link associations together, researchers, academics, which is just phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing.
What is the research, the academics, and what is the site dedicated for?
It's dedicated for anyone to do with nuclear testing, the nuclear community, sorry, and anyone who's involved in political, non-political, for their big gain with their PhDs and papers. And also we do put videos on there, so if anybody wants to use them as research material, that they can use them and they can find information out, as well as our education program that we've launched last year. So you can look on there and you can utilise our education package to teach people of the nuclear testing worldwide.
And why are you interested in this, Susan?
My father was a nuclear test veteran. He served in Operation Grapple. He was in the Navy. He was on HMS Narvik.
For what country?
For the British.
And what was Operation Grapple?
Operation Grapple was Christmas Island, or is now known as Kiribati. And it was the British making sure that they became a superpower in their first thermonuclear detonation.
Did he see the hydrogen bomb?
Yes, he did. He saw that. He was there. He was on HMS Narvik.
And how old was he?
He was just a young teenager.
And where was he from?
He was born in Poole in Dorset, and his family then moved up to Yorkshire, where he had a brother as well, who is still with us, unlike my father. The sea was always my father's calling. He joined I suppose what you would call it, a naval boarding school when he was a young lad, and the sea was always in his blood, in his bones. So it was just nature, him joining the Navy, which he did. And subsequently after the Navy, he always sailed. He was always, if he could be, he was always on the sea, and he should have, it was always my dad. He was the sea.
Did he ever talk about his service at all to you?
Once.
What did he say?
He blamed everything on Christmas Island.
What is everything?
When I was a small child, I was 8 years old, coming 9, my father walked out just before Christmas and he never returned. He left my mum, my sister and myself, not knowing what was going on. And I saw him in my early 20s. That was the only time I ever saw him after that.
So you spent 14 years without seeing your father?
Yes.
You never talked to him?
Never talked to him, didn't know anything. And especially for myself, it was very hard because I was a daddy's girl. I always wanted to be my daddy. I always wanted to be with my daddy. He had his own haulage business, so if I could ever go with him, I would. I was, so for me, him walking out and leaving us, abandoning us, was extremely hard on me, to the point where it's affected every single relationship thereafter. And the one time that I saw him, he blamed his life choices on Christmas Island and what he witnessed. And as a young 20, something child, I hated him, is the only way I could describe it. I hated him that he couldn't stand up for his actions, that he couldn't stand up and say, yeah, I did wrong, that he had to blame something. He couldn't blame himself for the trauma that he put us through. But then, as now time's gone on, I've got involved with the nuclear community, I can actually understand. I'll never forgive him. I'll never forgive what he did. But I can understand why he did it, because he had demons, he had mental demons, what you would call now PTSD. He had no clue. He didn't know. He kept finding solace in the bottom of a bottle of whiskey.
So he was an alcoholic?
Yeah, he did drink a lot.
Did you know anything about nuclear testing at all? About the test that the British did? Did you know your father was involved in it?
No, not until that time that he said. And then I heard nothing. There was nothing about it. I wasn't taught it in school. It's like it was eradicated from history. And I saw excuse me, I saw something on the TV, a very small clip on the news. And I started researching, and my health had been really bad. My health had really deteriorated, and subsequently I ended up in hospital seriously poorly. And technology is so great nowadays where you can actually look and find things. And I found the Descendants group, and I joined that and quite quickly become heavily involved with the descendants of the British descendants.
Describe what the British descendants are, please.
The British descendants, so the descendants are the descendants of the nuclear tests. So their fathers and grandfathers, great-grandfathers now, served under the nuclear testing program. And they...
Why did they get together? What was the common thread?
Illness.
Please explain.
Quite frankly, illness. Myself included, my health deteriorated to a point where I was unable to actually completely look after myself. I was bedbound for quite some time. I needed assistance and help, and I was mentally drained, mentally going, what have I done to myself to cause this? Why am I like this? And then when I found the Descendants group.
But why did you search out, just look at the camera, when you looked at, why did you search out the Descendants, and why did you think you were the same? Why did you think that you belonged there?
The conversation that my father had with me when he blamed the nuclear tests, it just jumped into my brain. It's the funny thing, isn't it? When some things just all of a sudden a memory pops into your brain, and this memory popped into my brain of sitting talking with my father and him saying and blaming about the nuclear tests. And it made me Google, it made me search on Facebook to find the answers, I suppose. I was looking to see if it wasn't me, was it me, or wasn't it me that was suffering? Was it just me? Am I the only one suffering? Because at the time, yes, some of my family do have health issues, but not to the point of like mine, and the ever-growing list of health issues as well. So when I found the Descendants, and they were all talking about the same health issues, or some would go, oh, I've got nothing wrong with me, but then all of a sudden you go, well, I've got this, and they go, oh, I've got that. And the commonality through literally everyone within that group was not just the the health issues, but the mental health issues that they were having, of the trauma of their father being there, and the unknown, and what always was being said is the what if. And I think sometimes that could be more impactful towards you, your body and your mind, because you're always on that cliff edge of wonderment of what's going to be happening next. When I go to hospital, I have that, you know, oh, what's going to happen now? You know, what's going to be said this time? You know, you've had blood work done and it comes back and you're like, here we go, because the consultant wants to see you, or a doctor wants to see you to discuss the results. You tend to be just living on the precipice of a cliff constantly, to the point of a, in a sense, a nervous breakdown, because you haven't got, there isn't the knowledge, there isn't that, you know, there is some about the veterans, but the descendants, the generations now that are living, haven't got the help. They haven't got the understanding. When you speak to a medical professional about your health issues, and you say, my dad was a nuclear test veteran, you either get shrugged shoulders, you get, well, that couldn't be any reason. You know, they completely deny that it could be a causing factor to your health. But when you speak to veterans' families across the world, not just the United Kingdom, but across the world, and there's always this common theme, especially with descendants, of autoimmune diseases.
Which you have, yes?
Yes.
Describe what you have.
I always say it's best to start with the top and work your way down with me. Excuse me. I've got an overactive brain function. I have thyroid eye disease twice, which is very rare. I had it 8 years ago, and I've got it as we speak. It's quite painful at the moment, but I've also got something called Duane syndrome, which is I've got it in both eyes and it's bilateral. So I've got a double whammy when it comes to the Duane syndrome. I've got hyperthyroid, I'm thyroid toxic. I have Graves' disease. I suffer with heart palpitations and a rapid heart as well. And I'm doubly incontinent. I have what's called polycystic ovary syndrome. I'm diabetic. I have nerve damage to my spine, both arms and legs. I think that's everything.
So you have siblings, yes?
I do.
And are they affected in any way that is not normal to the regular population?
They've all got health issues. There's all something wrong with them. But out of my sisters, I seem to the one that has got the brunt, so to speak. I have nieces and nephews as well. Most of them, fingers crossed, and I hope it stays that way, are healthy. They have got some health issues, but then we do have...
Are they out of the ordinary health issues that you would suspect it could be associated with?
There's always that question mark, because especially with your thyroid, which is a very common theme through a lot of descendants, especially with either being hyperthyroid, hypothyroid, or with Graves' disease or Hashimotosis. So there's that, but there is that common theme of thyroid running through, I think, quite a lot of us, so to speak, with my family included. But I do have a niece who's an amazing young lady who has literally had every health issue that you can think of thrown at her. She's had stroke, she's had seizures, there's that much that's absolutely trying to kill her, and it's not yet, because...
How old is she?
She's 30 now.
So she's basically having an old person's diseases as a young woman.
Yeah.
Right? Please say that.
Yeah, she's having old person diseases at a young age.
And what does the government say?
Well, they deny. It's a very true saying, delay, deny until they die. And I think that doesn't just go for the veterans, I think that goes for us descendants as well. Especially us, the ones that are middle-aged, so to speak, where, they want to get rid of us as well because we're too loud. We're too open-mouthed about what is wrong with us, what is going on with us, and how we're just as neglected as of our fathers and grandfathers, to the point where we're shunned and treated like fourth-class citizens.
So were you ever able to speak with your father about what we've just talked about? Were you ever able to talk to him about his service, his illnesses, your illnesses? So you were never able to talk to him? Please say that.
I was never able to talk to my father about my health issues or his health issues.
And what would you have liked to have said?
To be quite honest, that I understand that the man he was now, I understand the pain and the suffering that he must have gone through for all them years, that he didn't feel that he could tell his family that it would have been okay. We would have understood. I'd have still been his little girl. I wouldn't have run away.
That's really nice. So you know that this is not history that people know very much about. It's a huge issue. It affected a lot of things. What would you like to tell people? What would you like to say to somebody who's listening, who is now interested but doesn't really know what to do?
Listen, learn, Google. Come to LABRATS, look at our website. There's so much information there. But also don't be naive to think that this doesn't affect you. Do not be, yes, we are the extreme cases of, the veterans that attended the tests all over the world. It's not just the British. And that's what you've got to remember. It's not just the British. This is a worldwide trauma to not just people, to the world. These devices are harming not just humans, but the world that we live in. The testing that was done out at Christmas Island and the atolls, the Marshall Islands, it's affected the water. There's the dome, Runit Dome, that's leaking, that will be washed away. It's a couple of bad storms away from being washed away, and that radioactive material being washed into the sea, which is the food that we eat. You've got the testing that was done in South Australia, emu fields, Montebello. The sand doesn't stay still, it moves with the wind. The testing that was done in France, that was done in the Sahara Desert. That wind, the wind pushes the sand. It's not just, it doesn't stay in one spot. And if people are naive to think that it doesn't affect them, it does. It does to the point it affects every single human being, animal, tree, grass, water, you name it. There is nothing that has not been affected by nuclear testing.
And what does the British government say about all of this?
In my eyes, they just hide. They hide from the true fact that they sent 22,000 men to witness nuclear detonations, to then report back to people that needed to know, needed to see what would happen. And we're an experiment. Not just our fathers, not just our grandfathers, us descendants, we're an experiment that they want hidden.
That's excellent. Before we finish up, talk about Look Me in the Eyes.
Look Me in the Eye. The Look Me in the Eye campaign is, basically it's quite simple. We just want our Prime Minister to look us in the eye and tell us why our fathers were not worthy of recognition, why the ones that are living aren't worthy of recognition, and to listen, because a lot of the veterans and us descendants, we feel that we're never heard. So for someone to actually sit and listen as a Prime Minister, that's never happened. They've never sat and actually heard our side. They just know what they've been told. And what they've been told, we have no idea.
And what is the end product for your campaign?
Well, recognition. That's the be all and end all. These men deserve recognition. What they've done for this country, which nobody knows about, they made sure that the British were sat at that superpower table, that we, this tiny little island, could play in the big pond. But at what cost? The cost is huge.
You're looking for money? You want to get a medal? What do you want?
Medal recognition, just for starters, because so many people deserve the recognition of what's happened. I mean, myself, I can't work now. I can't do the job that I love because of my father being at the nuclear tests. And nobody can turn around and tell me that all my health issues are not related, because I'm always in that rare bracket. I may have what people class as a common health issue, but I'm always in the 10% rare bracket of it.
And you have several of them, you just don't have one.
Oh, completely. I mean, I'm great at forgetting actually what's wrong with me. Last year I was just diagnosed that I have a massive blockage in my intestines, and I had to have isotope treatment to see where the blockages were. And as soon as someone mentions radiation to you, you're like, no, I don't want it. Because the reason why I'm here talking to a healthcare professional is because of radiation. It blows my mind, you know, because they wanted me to have radiation treatment on my thyroid, and I sat there and I said no, and they were baffled as to why I was so anxious and constantly saying no, to the point of like a stamping child in a sense, because why would I want more radiation in me when I'm already damaged by radiation?
Absolutely. Well, in closing, is there anything that you would like to say?
I'd like to say thank you to everybody who makes sure that the nuclear veterans worldwide aren't unheard anymore. Thank you to you, Brian. Thank you to all the organisations, all the people that have got so much passion, caring and understanding for, in a sense, a very small cohort of people, but a very caring and wonderful cohort of community that mean the world to me. I often say you don't really want to join the club, but it's a great club to be in, and it's true. I've made some lifelong friends. Some people are more like family now. And in fact, we're all family. I've got the biggest extended family, which is amazing.
That's excellent. So in closing, I want to again tell you who you are and how people can contact LABRATS. Sorry.
Right, my name's Susan Musselwhite, and I'm one of the founders and directors of LABRATS. If you'd like to get in contact with us, please go to labrats.international